American team.
Okay,
Yeah. Let's go a little quieter over here. Like too much noise. I don't have my microphone today.
Hello, hey. Hey, how you been? I didn't recognize you.
We're really quiet. It's like really quiet in here. Even though it says staff only. Sure.
Is this okay?
Yeah. We're sneaking in here unauthorized. Which is all these items.
That's right.
Okay. Sit down, Dave.
Yes, hey, Dave. How you doing?
MSA was at the Oakland Coliseum when you guys came out here around 1994.
Yeah, that's...
We actually just pretty much talked about Memphis.
Back with Vince back then.
Yeah.
No, what Vince? You just joined up with the company.
Oh, with WCW?
Yeah, we were promoting the Hogan Flair.
Oh, that was... Oh, okay, yeah, I remember that now. We've been out here so many years. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
All right. 5, 4, 3. Yeah. All right. Well, here we are, gang. We got one of the greatest and one of my all-time favorite wrestling managers, the mouth of the South, Mr. Jimmy Hart.
You know, it's great being here today, man. I feel great. Here we're in San Francisco, California. We're at Planet Hollywood. We're doing a thing for the Sony PlayStation, which is we've had a contest going on here with WCW all around the world, and today's the finals. So it's great.
Right, I was saying, I was like I saw the ads too. I win a trip to San Francisco. I live in San Francisco, so that disqualified me from entering to win a trip. But I'm not sure who won what the winners of that contest. I guess get to like come here to San Francisco and have lunch with a WCW superstar. I don't know if did you get to have lunch with anybody, Jimmy?
Well, you know, sometimes nobody. Usually, I'm having to take the guys to lunch, you know, because after you manage, you know, say Conan. And Taskmaster and Jacqueline now, who is our newest addition to the Dungeon of Doom force.
I like Jacqueline. Let me just say that.
I know she is tough. You know, that's what I said today. I told a guy today. I said, "What do you think about Jacqueline?" Usually, Jimmy Hart hates women in professional wrestling. You know, because look at all the trouble. Sensational Sherry, manager. Look what she's caused to the Harlem Heat. They can't even get a title shot anywhere. You know, look what the Deborah and Woman have done to the Four Horsemen. Nobody even knows who the Four Horsemen anymore. But Jacqueline's kind of different because she's rough and tough and hard to bluff.
Yeah, and I've never seen a woman with muscles look so sexy. Anyways, it's been years. It's taken so long for WCW to get to San Francisco. What's taking you guys so long to get out here?
Well, I think a lot of different things. First of all, we wanted to build a really strong wrestling force, which we have now. You know, you've got Hulk Hogan, you've got Sting, you've got Luger, you've got Nash, you've got Hall, you've got the big 7'4" giant. So the Steiner brothers. So the list goes on, and you've got some of the biggest names ever in the history of professional wrestling, past, present, and future. And I think anytime you want to go on tour, it's like Kiss or anybody else. Yeah. You know, Kiss, you want to have all your original members. You don't want to go with just one guy up front, you know, saying he was a former member of Kiss. So I think now that we're strong, our TV show is the #1 TV show right now in the world, which is called Nitro. And I think we've got everything together now, so that's where we're making our swing through California.
All right, and we got Dave. You got anything you want to throw in, Dave?
Yeah, first of all, it's just a complete shock, complete surprise that you were going to be here. I didn't know you were going to be here, and it's great that you're here with us. And question that I've always wanted to ask a manager, you know, kind of general. What exactly does a manager do? If you can get into specifics on that in terms of...
Well, you know, a lot of things we do that people go unnoticed. I don't know, a while ago we were listening to some of the album that you were hearing a while ago. Jimmy Hart wrote 80% of the songs on that album, which are mostly for my guys. The Gentrys, the guy just yelled the Gentrys. I had a musical background of the Gentrys. We can talk about that later. But arranging some of the best matches that our guys can go against, like when you have Hugh Morrison, the Taskmaster, and the Faces of Fear. You know, it'll be easy to get a good win and go against some younger guys who don't have a lot of experience, but our deal is trying to go against the Steiner brothers or Harlem Heat and trying to sit down with their managers and trying to negotiate that along with WCW officials to make sure that we have the best matches that we can get into so we can elevate and get to a situation where we can go for those WCW Tag Team Championship belts or one of the other single titles that are up there. So besides that, talking to them, sometimes you kind of got to be a psychiatrist, you got to be a father figure to them, because in life everybody gets discouraged and has ups and downs. So it's a 24-hour babysitting job.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned you're right the song because I do know you're a musician. What do you play and how long have you been playing music?
Well, really, believe it or not, I play an auto harp, but I turn it upside down and play it kind of like John Sebastian used to do in the Loving Spoonful, probably before you guys were born.
I've heard of them.
But that's when our group was out. We had a hit record, the Gentrys. It was called "Keep On Dancing, Keep On Doing the Jerk." And we were kind of one-hit wonders. Our fan club, you've heard this before, met in the phone booth every week. But after that, I kind of got in professional wrestling. So And after I got in wrestling, I started doing more music. But we had 4 albums out. We toured with Dick Clark Promotions back then. Back then, they'd put 5 or 6 groups to a show. We were on tours with Beach Boys and Sonny and Cher and Herman's Hermits and Dave Clark 5 back then. But it was great. You know, we were on Hullabaloo Shindig where the action is. But it kind of led me into professional wrestling, and now we do a lot of the music for it.
That's great. So what I know, and I've heard you sing before. You're a really good singer. What do you play? You play instruments too, right?
Well, a little bit of piano, a little bit of guitar, but what I usually do is I kind of just poke and hope at it, get the chords I want, and then I go in and get a studio band to put it all together for me. Then I bring our wrestlers in, and they do the verbiage on it, and it turns out pretty good. You know, we ain't Bon Jovi or Led Zeppelin. We're just the WCW wrestling singers.
Yeah. You ever heard of Johnny Legend and his Rockabilly Bastards?
Johnny, a friend of mine. Let me just tell you, a friend of mine. I've met Johnny a couple of times. He's a big wrestling fan. Yep. He's did a couple of rock wrestling videos with Rhino Records, I believe. Am I right?
I think so. How about that, Peter? Do you know? I think you're right.
Yeah, I'm right. A good friend of mine named Eric Camden, which owns a place called Hollywood Book and Poster out of Los Angeles. He introduced me to Johnny Legend, and Rhino, by the way, put out Keep on Dancing on an album called Frat Rock that was out about 3 years ago. So Keep on Dancing is still out there chugging along.
Can I ask something? Lynn Margolis, who's Johnny Legend's sister, is the one who actually put together the whole Hello from Hollywood Andy Kaufman movie. You created a ton of history, by being a very important part of that with Andy Kaufman. Can you tell us a little about that, your thoughts? And
I was going to bring that up.
You Memphis and shared promotions?
Yeah. What happened too? What's so ironic? Eric Camden had called me a couple of weeks ago, and they're thinking about doing a movie on Andy Kaufman. And I think it's the same people that are involved that did the Larry Flint movie and also Ed Woods. So I just sent them a tape file because they realized that I was with Andy more than Jerry Lawler was with him. Jerry Lawler was the one who actually got started with him, gave him the big slap that was heard around the world, which was on David Letterman's show. Yeah. But I managed Andy while he was there. We rode together. We shared hotels together. We ate together. We did everything for about 1.5 years there together. So I guess because of the knowledge I had of Andy Kaufman, and I think on the Comedy Central now, they're playing all the old reruns of Andy Kaufman stuff that we did all the footage. So if you look at the footage, it shows me and Andy as partners together. Then all of a sudden it showed me and Andy getting into a fight on TV together with Lance Russell. Then we fought each other at the Mid-South Coliseum before about 12,000 people, a great crowd at the Coliseum. Then we came back, we made up again, and then we fought Lawler again. So we had about 1.5 year run. The thing I remember most about Andy is he was very sick toward the end of this wrestling exposition, or whatever that's not the right word, that we did back then. One night we were together in a dressing room, really quick story, and he had a real bad cold and a real bad headache. And he said, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, it's about 30 degrees here in Memphis, and you just came from Hollywood, California, where it was about 70 degrees. And I said, "I think traveling back and forth, the loss in time, was probably getting you sick." Of course, we knew what happened to him, and maybe that was the start of his, life kind of fading away a little bit with the illness he had. So I've still got it home. I've still got one of the rubber masks we wore when we did a big thing with Lawler. I got his pair of his sunglasses he had on too. But I've got some good pictures of Andy and I together.
Wow. A lot of people may not even know this, but you've been in wrestling for a long time. I mean, how did you start? Who was your first big guy that you managed?
Well, I'll tell you, Jerry the King Lawler got me in professional wrestling. We both went to Treadwell High School. When I left Treadwell High School, we had a hit record, the Gentries, and we toured, like I said, with Dick Clark Promotions all around the world. We did Hullabaloo Shindig where the action ended, and we did all the tours with them. While we were doing that, I'd come back home, once every month or whatever, and I'd always loved wrestling on TV. And Jerry Lawler was kind of the king of Memphis then. They had a local wrestling show called Championship Wrestling. So he wanted to cut an album, so his people got a hold of me. So I went into Sun Recording Studios, which is Sam Phillips' old studio, and met a guy named Knox Phillips. And at the time, Knox Phillips was kind of producing us too, because we had some other hits after Keep on Dancing was on MGM. We were on Sun Records. So with a song called Cinema Girl, which is the old Neil Young hit. So we were still touring a little bit. And he said, "Jimmy, would you help me cut an album?" I said, "Sure." So we cut an album on Jerry Lawler. So we made a great connection right then and became really close friends. And he said, "Look," he said, "I know you're getting tired of kind of doing the music, because if you don't have a hit record, you start playing the clubs and stuff." And so I was doing that. So at the time, I was playing a place in Memphis called the Ramada Inn. We do like 2 shows a night. It was easy. The money was good. So he said, "How would you like to do some promotional stuff for me and maybe be my manager?" Well, that was a dream come through, because I always loved professional wrestling. So we did a big musical thing, where he was playing with the Gentries at the Mid-South Coliseum. Jimmy Valiant came on, busted him in the head with a guitar. So then I started managing Jerry Lawler. And about 2 weeks into it, Jerry Lawler broke his leg playing touch football. So I went on TV and said, what do you do when a horse shoots his leg? Breaks his leg, you shoot him. So that's what got me involved with Jerry Lawler. So I became kind of the mainstay of Memphis. I started managing all the guys like Jimmy Valiant, Paul Ellering back then, and the Nightmares, and the list goes on and on, King Kong Bundy before he went to New York. And we had our big feud for about a year and a half there, and then all of a sudden one day the phone rang and it was Vince McMahon. And he had called and had saw my tapes. I went to New York City, stayed there 8.5 years, and like I said, managed some of the biggest names in wrestling: Bret the Hitman Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart,
That was evil what they did to you.
Yeah, King Kong Bundy, all the guys, and stayed there 8.5 years. And one day, and then I started managing Hulk up there. And Hulk said, look, he said, I've got a TV show called Thunder in Paradise. He said, why don't we ditch the wrestling for a while, take a break. Let's go to Orlando, film the show, which was produced by the people who do Baywatch. And we went down and did Thunder in Paradise for a year. Then all of a sudden, Eric Bischoff came along on the scene because they were filming one of their TV shows there, and gave us a deal to go to World Championship Wrestling. So I've been down there almost 3 years. So I guess it's 5 years in Memphis locally, and then after that 8.5 in New York, and almost 3 down here. So really, I guess altogether about 15 years.
Yeah, and altogether, how many championships wrestlers have you led to championships? How many championship wrestlers have you managed?
Well, just roughly off the top of my head, of course, Hulk Hogan,
right.
The biggest name, Bret Hart, Jim Neidhart as tag team champions up in New York, the Mountie, who was the Intercontinental Champion at one
right.
time, and of course the Honky Tonk Man. I can't forget the Honky Tonk Man,
yeah.
who I managed.
You guys were great
Dino
together.
Bravo held the belt up there. Earthquake and Typhoon as my tag team champions up there. The Funk Brothers, Terry and Dory Funk, were champions up there. And I'm sure I'm probably leaving out a lot of people. Adrian Adonis at one time was I believe, one of the Intercontinental Champion.
I don't think so.
You might be
Yeah.
right on that. I'm just trying to think of the different things of what we had. You probably know more than I do,
Yeah.
so I've been bumped around so much. But we've had so many champions through the years there and down here. So it's been a wild and crazy career. I guess I've managed the who's who of professional. I'm sure I'm leaving out a ton of people too.
Yeah, you have. I've always respected you as one of the managers. One of the managers that were always appeared to be being really good to his wrestlers. That's why when the Hart Foundation dumped you, I thought that was evil. It's not like if Bobby Heenan was managing and someone who like deserves to get like pile drive for cheating the wrestlers. But you were like, I always thought such a good manager. And when the Hart Foundation dumped you, I thought that ain't cool.
Well, it wasn't cool for 2 reasons, because Jimmy Hart's kept right on going, and look what's happened to the Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
You know, Bret's up in New York, but he's a single wrestler now. You know, I think Anvil kind of goes in and out up there, but it'll probably never be a team like that again, because nothing ever stays the same. But also, I was just thinking, I want to go. And of course, I managed the Nasty Boys. They held the titles up in New York for a while. And so, you know, I've had a great career. Like I said, I've always felt like Jimmy Hart. I had a radio phone call last night at one of the local shows I was doing here in San Francisco, and the guy, he told me, he said, you know, Jimmy, I respect you so much. He said, most of the managers do a lot of talking, but they don't really go out there and take the physical punishment at ringside that you have through the years. He said, you've always been with your men. You've gone up 3 or 4 times a night. You've never complained. You've had a broken hand, a broken jaw, stitches in your head. But, you know, you've always kept on ticking, where a lot of the managers, they do a lot of the talking for their men, but when it really comes to showtime, they're never there for them. So that made me really feel good that a lot of people out there really do appreciate what Jimmy Hart has done through the years in professional wrestling.
Now, how much knowledge overall in terms of business, in terms of wrestling, the moves, everything does a manager have to have? Because a lot of people out there, when they watch wrestling, they say, well, I can be a wrestler, I can be a manager, I can be a valet or whatever. How much overall general knowledge of wrestling do you need to have in order to be a successful manager?
Well, I think number one, it's like being a musician. I said, you know, you can listen to 10 songs, and out of those 10 songs, you're going to find one that you know in your heart has all of the ingredients to be a hit. It's either danceable, it's either singable, you know. It's got the great words, I love you, he loved him, she loved him, you know, and those are your usually key things of whatever kind of beat they want to put it to. I think a good manager has to have one thing, is to walk into a room, and if there's 10 guys in there, look at the one that you think is going to one that's going to make the most money as far as a visual look, and maybe have the most talent. Sometimes it's not always the one that has the most talent that makes the most money, because a wrestler, you have to have that special something that the fans relate to, and I've always been able to do that. When we tagged Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart up together, they were such a contrast, but that's what made it the Hart Foundation. Dino Bravo, there was something about Dino that just stood out a little different than Adrian Adonis. Adrian Adonis.
Although Adrian Adonis can stand out pretty much.
He was great in the ring. People always knocked us for putting the flower shop together when I would come out and go, and here's adorable Adrian, you know. And Hulkster. Look, you know, a lot of people knock the Hulkster, but being with a Hulkster, and I did too before I got with him for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
But when you see that he gets up every morning and trains, at the evening he trains. I don't care if they were out till 5 o'clock in the morning doing publicity. When the other wrestlers were sleeping in the rooms, he was the first one up, the first one calling everybody else. So he really lived the things that he really talked about. Still, he is the biggest name in professional wrestling. Whether people like him or don't like him, you put him on one corner and put the President of the United States on the other, and I'm going to tell you right now, there's going to be more people that line up for Hulk Hogan than will be the President.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
and I'm just saying like it really is. But Hulk had something about him when he made the movie Rocky that just impelled him to a different level.
Right,
but he had the talk, he had the look. I've always felt like a champion. When you're a champion, when the people meet you on the street, it's like they have to look up to you and shake your hand. Like if they have to look down to you, those are champions that aren't going to last very long.
What do you think about this wrestling war that's going on? For me, for example, I love wrestling, period.
Me
Whether
too.
you're with WCW or the other one, WWF, we can say it, you know,
Right.
or any other of
Right.
those wrestling promotions. What do you think of this war that's going on between the two main ones? You know,
Well, I feel like we don't have, you know, I'm just saying myself, we don't have a war. I think that people had a projection that nobody would ever take WWF because of the legendary status that it had through the years, you know, with everything. They were one of the first ones that really created the action figures, wrestlers on the MTV, more showbiz entertainment type
were they
wrestling.
the first ones who created the pay-per-view event?
Well, to me, maybe somebody came along before that, but I think they were, because I was on the first WrestleMania. That was a thrill for me. I managed King Kong Bundy, who beat Ashley Jones in about 15 or 17
exactly.
seconds.
It was a record for a while.
Right, and Greg the Hammer Valentine, who was against Tito Santana. So I was thrilled to be there, especially coming from Memphis, Tennessee. So I felt like they did, not knowing anybody else who ever had a pay-per-view in wrestling. There might be somebody else out there, so if you are, I hope I'm not offending you, but excuse my ignorance on that. But I feel like there's not a war now. They projected that maybe a year and a half we might come close to taking WWF. But I think what Eric Bischoff did, he's young, he's enthusiastic, he's an innovator. I think he came out and realized, like any football team, to have a good football team, you got to get a good quarterback. Well, who did he bring in? Hulk Hogan, who had a name. Then you got to get you a couple of good old halfbacks, you know, so that came Nash and Hall. You got to get you a good fullback, you know, and tight ends and stuff. The Steiners, Lex Luger, Sting. If you look at PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated, has a little book that comes out each 6 months or a year, and they list from the fans, supposedly, whether it is or not, the top 500. Well, I was just looking at the top 500 wrestlers, and out of the top 500 wrestlers, it was like Hulk Hogan, Randy Savage, Sting, Lex Luger, the Steiner brothers, everything. 7 out of the top 10 came from the WCW. So I think what Eric Bischoff has done, he's put together a great promotional force. We have, and she walked in, I'm not saying it because she's there, like Lynn Brent. They put Alan Sharp together. Mike Weber, he's put a good creative force because Mike Weber came from WWF. So he learned from up there how to go out and promote and do the right things. In return, we have that happening for us. We have a good staff of people that go out now and do the things for WCW like Vince used to have for WWF. And bringing these superstars over, we got Piper with us now. And like I said, Bret Hart made a statement the other day, and I love Bret Hart, don't get me wrong, and I hope this is not quoted the right way, but things bothered me because it's funny how people change, what we were talking about earlier. You know, Bret Hart said that Nash and Hall probably cry themselves to sleep every night because when they cash that check, I'm sure they got a smile on their face, but when they go to sleep at night, they cry themselves to sleep because of being down here with Hulk Hogan and all that stuff. If anybody's crying themselves to sleep, it's probably Bret Hart because he was just offered a contract with us and he decided to stay with Vince McMahon, from what I read. Now, if our ratings are beating them so badly now with Bret Hart, who's crying themselves to sleep at night? I'd be crying myself to sleep knowing that I'm carrying the torch for WCW and I'm the main man, and all of a sudden I'm on TV every week with all the stars they've got and a lot of past stars that used to be with us. So that means that everything he's got right now is not affecting us. So I'd hate to let somebody know gave me a good contract, and now I'm sure our people look and think, God, we didn't sign Bret Hart up or some of the other guys because we're killing them without him. So it's funny how people change, you know, and I love Bret. I don't say anything about any of the wrestlers up there because they don't have families. They all work hard, and they're doing the best they can do. But I just know right now, the thing that's hot and happening, and you know it, and if I'm lying, I'm dying, is WCW. You know, the ratings prove it. And it's because of Eric Bischoff, whether anybody likes this man or not, went out on a limb, got in the right talent he believed in that other people said they might be too old or they're outdated or anything else, because wrestling fans are just like football fans. When I go to see Buffalo, whether he's any good anymore or not, I still was Jim Kelly. When you talk about Miami football, Dan Marino. When you talk about
San Francisco 49ers.
yeah, 49ers. Yeah, you know, and so that's what I'm saying. So when you talk about wrestling, the first name's going to be Hulk Hogan. The second name's probably going to be Ric Flair. The third name's going to be a Lex Luger or a Sting or a National Hall. And that's just the way life really is.
Now, I want to talk about tomorrow. I am super excited about tomorrow's event, Super Brawl 7. I think this is the first pay-per-view ever done in San Francisco. And I want to talk about especially the match that the Taskmaster has with Chris Benoit. I think this is a little bit out of hand when you start fighting in the bathrooms and all that. I mean, what's the whole projection on this match? It's a San Francisco death match?
Yes, death match, right. And I guess they're going to fight till one of them can't fight anymore. But here's goes back to the Taskmaster. I managed the Taskmaster in Memphis, Tennessee. He's one of the first guys I ever managed. We've had a great relationship. Chris Benoit, as far as wrestling goes, is tremendous. I mean, you can't get any better than Chris Benoit. Taskmaster is more of a brawler. You never see him take a big backdrop. You never see him drop kick anybody. So the Taskmaster, being as smart as he is, what's he going to do? He's going to take advantage of Chris Benoit. So what does he take Chris Benoit? He takes him out of his game plan. He doesn't keep Chris Benoit in the ring. He takes him where the Taskmaster does his best work, and that's in the bathroom.
With a chair?
All right, well,
That's right. With anything.
Yeah. Okay, great. You know what? Back when you were managing Hulk Hogan, for a while, I went that period where he was wearing black and you were in black. Well, that was kind of like the first experimentation of maybe the NWO coming, because that's how Hogan looks now, where dressed all in black.
Well, we knew there was a change happening with us. I knew that Hulk was very unhappy. A lot of the fans were booing him, going to the ring. And no matter what Hulk did back then, he does all the charities. He's, like I said, he's the greatest spokesman ever. But when you go to the ring and the fans don't appreciate what you do, it just kind of made him realize then, what am I really doing? I've been doing this all of my life. Thousands and thousands and millions of people have come to see this man. So I think it was just a change in heart in him. When I turned on Hulk Hogan, I was trying to get a message through to him. Hulkster, it's time to make a change. Jimmy Hart's always been a bad guy. A leopard doesn't change his spots. You know what I'm saying? And I realized, and I tried the goody two-shoes thing for a long time, and hugging the girls and kissing the babies and doing the whole thing, but it just wasn't for Jimmy Hart. And I tried to teach that to Hulk Hogan, but he wasn't ready to change this. So that's when the Taskmaster and I put a plan together. We shaved his mustache, then we had a war on our hands, and now maybe we drove Hulk too far. Now he's over the deep end and trying to destroy us. But I know they're wrapping this up, but I appreciate you guys being here.
Just give us a station ID before you go.
I will. I'm going to give you one advice. This goes out to everybody that's listening. Remember one thing in life: if you don't listen to anything else, never trust a midget.
All right, just the last thing.